Hello, 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 and welcome to Nursing News You Can Use at 5. I'm Tina Baxter, your host. Welcome to those of you that are joining us on the Baxter Professional Services page, those of you that are joining us on the Nurse Shark Academy Facebook page, and those that are joining us on the Nurse Shark Academy on YouTube. Thanks for tuning in for this week. I wanted to go ahead and get started on today with our affirmations and inspirational quotes. This is October the 18th, 2023. I really like this. Everybody who knows me knows I'm a big nerd. So I really love all things nerdy, right? So this is from J.R.R. Tolkien, and it says, "Little by little, one travels far. Little by little, one travels far." And that's just a reminder for me to just get started taking one step forward to whatever it is that I'm walking towards. So taking that initial step, just taking one small step. Here's our second. If you don't like something, change it. If you can't change it, change your attitude. I'm going to say that again. If you don't like something, change it. If you can't change it, change your attitude. That's from Dr. Maya Angelou. And then lastly, we are what we repeatedly do. Excellence then is not an act, but a habit. We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, then, is not an act, but a habit. This is from Aristotle. So, those are our inspirational quotes for today. These are quotes compiled by Lauren Dratch in the Inspirational Daily Calendar. All right, let's go ahead and get into it because we've got some heavy news segments to hit, and then we're going to talk about some things that are coming up for the new year, for the new month. And so, I'm excited about that. There's some wonderful things that are coming down the pike, and I always get excited about what we're going to be doing. Okay, so let's get into it. Here's our first news story. Nursing home worker charged in ghost employee scheme. This is from workmanscompensation.com. The reason why I brought this up is because I found this quite interesting, as we're going to talk about what's happening in an event that's coming up on cybersecurity, and this just came up right on time. So we'll talk about the event coming up, but I just want to share something with you. So it says large organizations often rely on outside sources to verify previous employment and backgrounds and verify hours worked. Worker verification is critical for healthcare, as indicated this year by numerous cases of worker identity theft and false licensing. So you've seen all of these things happening we talked about the Nightingale case and all of this. But the nurses, the non-nurses who are stealing nurses' identity and practicing without a nursing license, all of that, right? We've discussed all that. So I found this quite interesting because this kind of goes even beyond some of those run-of-the-mill things that you would think about. It says a recent case involving ghost employees highlights just how easy it is for employees of large employers to fall through the cracks, even with the newest technology as oversight. So it says last week, the U.S. Department of Justice announced charges against a former nursing home scheduler after a federal grand jury returned an indictment on 7 months of wire fraud. According to the indictment, Alicia Richardson, 44, of Chicago, worked for an area nursing home as a scheduling supervisor and devised a way to hire and pay ghost employees that did not exist. So, according to the article, the nursing home has used an automated time card software that utilized hand scans paired with individual codes for workers to clock in and out of their shifts. Employees would clock in by scanning their hands to begin their shift, at which time they would enter their individual working code and then do the same as their shift ended. The time card would then track their time to determine the number of hours worked and their resulting pay. So if they missed a clock in, then HR could go in and manually put in their time. Okay. So according to the article, Richardson was able to use her manager code to link her own handprint to the individualized time codes for the employees she had hired that did not exist or actually worked elsewhere. So from October 2017 to April 2019, investigators assert that Richardson was able to clock in and out as a ghost employee and submit missed time punches to human resources when needed. Due to falsified records, it appeared that more employees worked at the facility than actually did. So this has ramifications beyond her stealing this money. But just think about this: they're reporting workers on the clock to take care of their residents, and they actually didn't exist and weren't there. So, according to the report, the nursing home allegedly paid out over $100,000 for work that was never actually done. So then now the facility, I imagine, may also be in trouble because they may base some reimbursement because of the staffing and work that was done that would be fraudulent. So there's a lot that may go into this. So we'll have to keep an eye on this case and see what happens. So, as part of the scheme, payroll checks were deposited into bank accounts for which Richardson had access to and for which she either signed or forged, as the employees did not exist. In cases where the employee worked elsewhere, the ghost employee would cash the check and then allegedly share the proceeds with Richardson. So they're going to continue to investigate this. The FBI is involved with this in the Office of Inspector General. So we'll see more of what's happening, but wow. That's all I have to say is wow. Okay. Let's get to our next story. In other healthcare news, where nurses are striking yet again and protesting. Nurses protest outside New Wynn Hospital. This is coming out of New York, reported by WKTV. It says the New York State Nurses Association organized a protest today, speaking out against Wynn's Hospital's plan to open up with too few nurses. NYSNA nurses and allies gathered at the new hospital. So this is a brand new hospital. In case you don't know, they're brand new. They're opening up to speak out against Mohawk Valley Health System understaffing and proposed cuts to nurse pay and benefits. The union states that the organization has failed to reach an agreement with the nurses who will staff the new hospital, proposing wage cuts, increase to healthcare costs, and reductions to retirement contributions. The union also goes on to say that since the nurses at the MVHS hospitals Faxton, St. Luke's, and St. Elizabeth's voted in July to merge into one union, they have been negotiating with hospital management over the terms of employment for the merged bargaining unit. So once again, nurses are organizing and protesting unfair wages, staffing cuts. And it's a shame to open up a brand new hospital and then not properly staff it. That's like opening up a new restaurant and only hiring one cook, right? Let's think about that. All right, let's move on. Okay, so this is another article. This is from Ignite's Long-Term Care News. It says AARP litigators blame nursing home headquarters, HQs, for staffing problems, publicize legal strategies against them. This is going to be interesting. So nursing homes could find themselves open to civil rights and consumer protection lawsuits if the AARP Foundation litigation unit is successful in 3 cases it is currently pursuing against operators. Staff attorneys from the litigation unit explained DTC and West Virginia, in which the senior advocacy group has sued a skilled nursing chain and 2 assisted living operators. Attorneys Kelly Bagby and Benjamin David provided the high-level briefing on the cases on a webinar hosted by the Long-Term Care Community Coalition on Tuesday, pointing out that the families of residents have certain expectations about the care that will be provided. Benjamin says, people are always under the mistaken belief that if their loved ones will get individualized care. Well, anybody that works in long-term care know that is not necessarily true. Staffing isn't devoted to that level. They may be told we can meet your needs, but looking at the size of the staff, that's impossible. Bagby said that the litigation unit's focus is not on what a facility is doing wrong at an individual patient level that could be seen as abusive or neglectful. but rather how to, quote, force nursing facility companies to change their practices to include adequate staffing. In the Illinois case, the AARP Foundation is suing Alden nursing homes, claiming that the company is intentionally understaffing its facilities. Bagby goes on to say, you should not be lied about the staffing levels when you come into one of these facilities. We believe that the decision to understaff is done at a corporate level and that the facilities don't have a lot of discretion against what the corporation tells them. And I have to say, from what I understand, that is very accurate and true. A lot of things are dictated down from corporate to individual facilities, and a lot of times there's not a lot of wiggle room when it comes to that. They have these staffing matrices that you have to do, and they want to make sure that they keep the staffing low because that increases the revenue that the parent organization can keep and what they can give to shareholders, or in some cases to the families that are controlling them. So we've discussed on the show time and time again about how nursing homes are funded and all these different things. And so I can't say that that's not wrong. So we'll get more into it. So the lawsuit was filed in September 2022. At the time, Ignite's Business Daily reported that there's alleged chronic understaffing in most of the 6 facilities named, which provides less than 50% of the necessary nursing hours for residents from 2018 to 2020. Of course, a company representative, quote, vigorously denied the allegations because that's what they're going to do. And so we'll have to see how it plays out. It says the nursing facility staffing needs to be more than, quote, warm bodies in a building, Bagby said. So there might be a difference in what the quality versus quantity. And so that might be some of the issues there. And so she goes on to say that they need caring staff who are willing to meet patients' assessed needs. Providers have to train staff. They have to be competent. They have to want to be there. What nursing facilities are selling is a community where your care needs to be met. So we'll see what happens. They're also pursuing more cases under the False Claims Act. So we'll see what happens in those cases, and we'll keep an eye on that. So with that, here's another interesting article that I found, because this is a question that I had as well, is what happens when you are aging in the penal system. So it says access to long-term nursing care for justice-involved elderly. This is an article that was posted in Health Affairs. And so it says, with the United States population rapidly aging, one facet remains largely unseen. Incarcerated people get old too. And that is what I was actually thinking about that. And I had a discussion about this a couple months ago with my husband, because I wonder, okay, so let's say you're older, you're in the prison system, which really isn't set up to take care of the elderly population very well, but you're still either fulfilling your sentence or your crimes were so egregious that putting them in the general population of the nursing home may pose a risk to those residents that are there. So what do you do in that situation? And so this is one article that may shed some light on this. And according to the article, it says by 2030, 1 in 3 incarcerated people will be considered geriatric, as compared to 1 in 5 Americans overall. Unprepared for this challenge, our prisons have already begun to resemble nursing facilities, ill-equipped to address this public health crisis. Policymakers can protect the ethical and effective delivery of care to elderly incarcerated people by decarcerating failed patients with low public safety risk. That often makes sense. Forming partnerships with community resources may be necessary to ensure the nursing home care is available to patients unable to remain in jails and prisons. Okay, understandable. But what happens to those that really need to stay in prison? for whatever reason. Just saying. Okay. So it says, as people age, they frequently develop chronic health conditions, including dementia, which can increase the difficulty of independently completing activities of daily living, such as bathing, toileting, eating, dressing, etc. Again, understandable. But what if this person has a history of violence and you're going to put them in a dementia unit where they can freely access other individuals? Those are those questions that I have. So it says, in contrast, incarcerated older adults are often left without adequate support and are unable to complete some of their ADLs in prison. In addition to struggling with ADLs, older persons often struggle with prison activities of daily living, which are actions uniquely expected of incarcerated people. This is interesting. So what those include are standing for prolonged periods of time for a count, responding to hearing orders, dropping to the floor for alarms, and climbing to the top bunk. Even though elderly people experience cognitive and functional impairment, struggle to complete both ADLs and PADLs, researchers found that more than 1/4 of geriatric women experiencing incarceration in California state prisons were assigned to top bunks. Just one example of how prisons often don't meet the needs of their older residents. So this is something I've been thinking a lot about, because oftentimes someone maybe has been incarcerated for a long period of time. Let's say you're 40 when you go in, you serve a 40-year sentence. If you serve all of your time, you're 80 when you come out. Are you going to be able to take care of yourself in the community? Those are questions. And it says, complicating matters more, geriatric and chronic health conditions present sooner in prisons, such that incarcerated individuals as young as 55 are medically considered geriatric. This is due to a phenomenon known as accelerated aging, in which poor quality of life, chronic stress, and unstimulating environment of the prison accelerate physical and cognitive decline. So this is a big problem. And so there's a lot to this article. I am going to be really interested in reading more about what's happening here. But these are just things for you to think about. And those of you that work in the prison system, if you're watching this, hey, give us some insight on what's happening. Because as a person who works with older adults and in nursing homes and things like that, I do kind of wonder how we're going to do this. And again, for those that maybe had a history of violence, my concern is, as a person who takes care of people in the community, would it be safe to put them with the general population when they weren't safe to be in the general population in the prison? And so that makes me wonder too. So maybe the answer is to create some sort of geriatric nursing home in the prison system, because again, you have to remember that even though they may have restrictions while they're in prison, when they go home, those restrictions are gone and they're able to access things that maybe they would have been able to access. And because it's considered their home, not a prison. So nursing homes aren't a prison, they're a home. So these are some things that, questions. And so there is, it says, currently a lack of data on the availability of community resources receiving elderly incarcerated individuals. However, since nursing homes can do and consider a criminal history when deciding whether to admit patients to the facilities, incarcerated patients struggle to find places to go. And so again, my question is how, what are the types of things? How do we make it equitable? They've served their time. They need the care without possibly causing issues later on for the nursing facility. Should to say, okay, you let's say this person who maybe had a nonviolent crime, maybe they just maybe they robbed a bank, right? Or maybe they knocked over a liquor store or something like that, or maybe they got a drug charge and they've been released. They're moving into the nursing home. They've got dementia. Then there's a resident altercation, because that sometimes happens with dementia residents. They have trouble understanding cues and things like that. And then the facility may be on the hook because this person already had a criminal history, and they put them in the room with a roommate with someone who doesn't have a criminal history. What happens to that facility and what happens at that time? So there's a whole lot of questions that come up with this. And again, I want to make things fair and equitable for all parties. But how can we do that and make it safe, or err on the side of safety, but also make sure that they get the proper care that they need, because they're humans, they're people. They need care. So just to see what happens, this is a great article to review, and we can always look into it more. But those are questions that were on my mind, and I'm glad to see that someone's doing research into that, because I didn't know what the answers were. All right. Okay, so here are some another interesting things that might pique your interest here. This is from Arizona. This is coming from the Arizona News. And it says, Arizona Nursing Board takes emergency action against Prescott nurse for improper use of a powerful sedative. So this is, again, where those questions become about scope of practice and what you can and can't do, which is why I talk about these things. So the Arizona State Board of Nursing took emergency action and suspended the license of a Prescott nurse practitioner after finding a high risk to public health and safety due to the improper use of a powerful sedative. The board voted to immediately suspend Philip Schaefer's license at its September's meeting based on the preliminary findings detailed in the 10-page emergency order. According to an audio recording of the meeting, Schaefer and his attorney both did not attend. During the discussion around Schaefer's suspension, board members described the investigative report as very concerning and said there was a lot to the case. The nursing board found on 7 occasions Schaefer, quote, practiced outside of his scope of practice when he ordered IV ketamine treatments for patients he diagnosed with treatment-resistant depression without collaboration with the specialist mental health provider. Ketamine is a powerful sedative and general anesthetic used in hospitals and by paramedics. In recent years, some clinics have started using lower doses of the drug to treat patients with mental illness, including depression, through IV infusions of ketamine. So I want people to understand that these are IV infusions as opposed to the medication that is nasally given, that's ketamine. And there's a lot of nurses that are looking into providing this type of service on the infusions. And so Schaefer is a family nurse practitioner and adult gerontological acute care nurse practitioner. The emergency order said Schaefer owned a clinic in Prescott. Prescott Ketamine listed Schaefer as a certified nurse injector and had a photo of him on its website, but the clinic removed Schaefer from its site. The nursing board also said that Schaefer wrote in an investigative questionnaire that he would give a low dose of ketamine intramuscularly for aesthetic treatments, including specific invasive CO2 lasers and Morpheus 8 microneedling procedures, which is outside the standard of care. The standard of care for pain management for aesthetic procedures does not include giving a controlled substance like ketamine. The ABC 15 investigators called Artesian Aesthetics. An employee who answered the phone said that Schaefer no longer works at the company, but wouldn't confirm whether he still owned the business. So again, he owns the business. This is his business. The employee also described the allegations against Schaefer as hearsay. The board also found Schaefer prescribed his employees oxycodone, Percocet, and codeine syrup and did not document an encounter for any visit in a medical record. So these are unusual practices, to say the least. The emergency order also said Schaefer admitted during an interview with the board to falsifying a medical record when he forged a colleague's name on a nursing note after the patient had an adverse reaction to ketamine around the same time. So this is like a bad actor all around. Okay. Schaefer also told the board during an interview that he was not always present in the clinic when patients were receiving IV ketamine treatments, which the board said was in violation of standard of practice. The 10-page order includes several other accusations against Schaefer, including that he, quote, asked all staff to take ketamine infusions for the purpose of explaining the experience by telling them they cannot convince patients if they do not know how the treatment helps. That's bizarre. ABC 15 contacted Schaefer directly about the findings and suspension by the state board. Cody Hall, an attorney representing Schaefer, provided an email statement with Schaefer disagrees with the board's summary suspension and looks forward to responding to the allegations against him. His attorney said Schaefer could not comment further under Arizona law. So here's a statement by the attorney. Mr. Schaefer cannot comment on the board's suspension. Under Arizona law, a licensed professional may not release information received from the board to any other person or entity or use it in any proceeding or action except in connection with the board's review of the investigation, the disciplinary interview, and any administrative proceedings or appeals related to the disciplinary interview or hearing. A person who violates the subsection commits an act of unprofessional conduct. So, again, these are all allegations. They've not been proven. He is, innocent until proven guilty. And all of this is not a court of law. He's not, as far as we know, under any criminal investigation. So, but I have to say, some of those practices are very questionable. And I'm going to say, don't do that. Don't do that. So we'll see what happens with this. And we'll keep an eye on this case as well. So this is a case outside of the U.S., and I like to showcase articles and things that are happening not just in the U.S. because, you know what? There's nurses all over the world. There's nursing dudes all over the world. And you need to know that it's not just here in the U.S. So this is from ABC News out of Australia. And it says, new pay deal struck for Tasmanian nurses and other health workers amid hundreds of job vacancies. So it says Tasmanian nurses and midwives will be paid the same in league as their mainland counterparts after striking a deal with the state government. But while welcomed by unions, one advocate says it won't be a silver bullet to the sector's problems. The Tasmanian branch of the Australian Nursing and Midwifery Federation and the Health and Community Services Union overwhelmingly supported a government offer, with 80% of members voting in favor after nearly a year of negotiations. The deal contains an average pay increase of 14 to 15% over 3 years, including a 3.5% starting in December this year, a $1,500 base salary raise, and a $1,000 cost of living payment. Tasmanian nurses and midwives will be paid in the same league as their mainland counterparts after striking the deal. But while welcomed by the unions, again, they said it's not going to be the silver bullet. I'm sorry, I just read that. So according to this, it says there are estimated anywhere between 500 and 1,000 staff vacancies. According to the ANMF Tasmanian branch secretary, Emily Shepherd. She says this agreement will now see nurses and midwives in Tasmania paid in line or above the national average. It'll also assist in recruitment to fill vacant positions, particularly in regard to keeping graduate nurses here who might have chosen to work in other states and territories for higher wages. So you can see that there's been a problem with this. So HACSU Assistant State Secretary Lucas Digney welcomed the move, saying it would help address Tasmania's ongoing recruitment and retention crisis. He also said that the pay increase would help nurses feel more valued, but added that they would continue to experience unmanageable workloads. And so that is the problem. They're raising the wages, but they still have to attract other nurses into the field and to stay in their area. So it says last year, the Victorian government announced it would pay for university fees for 10,000 nursing and midwifery places, leaving Tasmanian unions fearing it would entice and retain local students and amplify critical shortages. Mr. Digney said, unless Tasmania offered free education for nurses and midwives, the state was unlikely to completely fix its workforce shortage. And so we're seeing that as a common theme of, we need to increase the nurses, but how can we get them to stay local? And that's something that we certainly battle here in Madison County as well, which is one of the reasons why the Black Nurses Association hands out scholarships to African American students who are in nursing school, because we want to keep them here in Madison County. Okay. Here's another great story that's kind of right along that. There's a new initiative here in the United States that I thought was interesting, and I keep hinting at this, Ivy Tech, to think about this, right? So this is a new initiative provides free community college tuition to 3,000 nursing students. This is coming out of Holyoke. So Holyoke Community College nursing students, Caitlin Richard and Mansi Patel, are among 3,000 state residents who will now get their higher education tuition at no cost. For the first time ever, 100% of community college nursing students will have free tuition, said State Secretary of Education Patrick Tutwiler announced Tuesday at the college. Tutwiler's announcement came during the second day of statewide STEM Week celebrations and was held at the college's Center for Health Education and Simulation. The STEM education, workforce, and science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. So this is happening in the state of Massachusetts, if I didn't say. It says this year, approximately 3,000 nursing and pre-nursing students currently enrolled in one of Massachusetts' 15 community colleges. All 3,000 are attending at no cost of their own. The funding was a combination of state and federal resources. The celebration highlighted scholarship recipients attending Holyoke Community College, and the effects of that investment is expected to have for nursing students across the state. The scholarship tells us that you believe in us and our potential. We thank you for that. We will make our communities proud, Richard said. Richard, who now lives in Ludlow, is a graduate of the Roger L. Putman Vocational Technical Academy in Springfield. She said she put her dreams of being a nurse on hold to raise her children, each of whom have cognitive differences. She says, I have 3 sons that are on the autism spectrum. I was a stay-at-home mom to make sure they had all the services they need. She said since she's been able to get her kids the services at school, she decided this was the perfect opportunity for her to go back to college. Inspired by her father and sister who are nurses, Richard returned to Holyoke Community College with the goal of studying in the same field as her family. So I just think that's wonderful. Hopefully we can get some innovative programs like that here in Indiana, and also to make them very fair and equitable for all those involved. All right, let's go on and move to this next story. This is another good news story. So we've had some good news stories in here. After we start with the negative and go to the good news, always end on a positive note. So this is a new certification. We just talked about the certification in cannabis nursing. Now there's a new certification for burn nursing specialty. So this is the world's first burn nursing specialty certification launched by the Board of Certification for Emergency Nursing, the BCEN. So the Board of Certification for Emergency Nursing, the benchmark for specialty certification across the emergency nursing spectrum, today announced the worldwide launch of the Certified Burn Nurse Registered Nurse Burn Nursing Specialty Certification. To earn the CBRN credential, eligible RNs and APRNs must pass a rigorous national exam spanning the burn nursing continuum, including pre-hospital care and initial management, acute and critical care, post-acute rehabilitation, outpatient and community care, and aftercare and reintegration, as well as injury prevention, education, and psychosocial patient and family support. So I think that's wonderful. So congratulations on that new certification. And we'll see what happens with that and as more people apply for that. But I wanted to share that great news in case you are a burn nurse and you're looking to add some extra credentials. Here's a great way to do it. So here's another story. I love this. This is a nurse, and we're going to call her as one of our nurses making a difference in this story. This is from burned out nurse to the tired nurse. A healthcare worker turns exhaustion into entrepreneurship. So this is about Shannon Blake. I think this is great. Shannon Blake knew she had to leave nursing for her own good. Dealing with the bureaucracy and immersed in healthcare's traditional model had her exhausted to the point where she didn't feel she'd give her patients the Blake care demanded of herself, she said. In the months since, however, the Sioux Falls wife, mother, stepmother, grandmother has found a new way to care for people. Blake does it through affirmation jars that she carries on her Etsy page, The Tired Nurse. Her affirmation jars contain 60 tiny scrolls. Each day, the recipient pulls out a scroll, unwraps it, and reads a quote designed to uplift, inspire, and entertain. I think that's wonderful. And so I'm going to go ahead and show the picture so you can see the screen. I'm going to show that to you. So as you can see, the screen here, and I love it. And it says, this is so funny. It's really cute. Um, it says, badass B itch. Affirmations, back at it again with 60 more days of butt kicking, uplifting quotes. You can read that. And trying not to get kicked off platform here. But yeah, so these are some affirmations that you can get from this nurse. And I just thought this was really cool, and that she's turned this into something that she wants to do. So let's get on with it. So it says, humor is such a big part of our mental health and well-being. I'm probably a little bit too funny at a time when I should be serious, but it's a quirk of mine. I try to have fun with projects, and with the affirmation jars, I was looking for something to inspire women. She says women tend to put each other down or knock each other down, particularly in the age of social media. She wants to reverse that, one with positive, uplifting messages at a time. So she has another one that says, wait, let me overthink this first, affirmations. I think this is great. So I'm going to say this, Nurse Blake, if you are hearing this, I'd love to have you on the Nurse Shark Academy show. I definitely plan to see if I can reach out to you. But she's got these great jars and sayings on her Etsy business. So she also offers what they call those damn it dolls. With sharp needles for people who need to express their frustrations, jewelry made with old denim scraps, keychains made of blue jeans, scented eye pillows, and cards that can be tucked under car windshields, and just wonderful things. So I just love the creativity, and I love spotlighting nurse entrepreneurs. So I'm gonna make her our nurse making a difference, as well as we have one final story. This is coming from Gulf Coast Media. This is about another nurse who is making a difference in a different way. So USA Health names new CEO for Children's and Women's Hospital. And so it says that Nurse Browning, let me see if I get her name right, Deborah Browning, yes, Chief Nursing Officer at USA Health and Nursing, is now their CEO. So she served as their Chief Nursing Officer beginning in 2021, then moved into the interim administrator position. Prior to joining Children's and Women's Hospital, she served as Chief Nursing Officer at Oklahoma Children's Hospital in Oklahoma City. She's been responsible for women's and children's health service lines at Cincinnati Children's Hospital and Sean Jenkins Children's Hospital in Charleston, South Carolina. So since stepping as interim administrator, she has overseen the renovation and expansion efforts of the only pediatric emergency center on the Alabama Gulf Coast, among other initiatives. Plans call for the state-of-the-art space to open this winter. She says, I believe this is a time of unprecedented growth for our hospital, and I look forward to leading the teams responsible for the best, meeting the healthcare needs of our community. So I want to say congratulations to her on her appointment as CEO. And yeah, nurses can be in the C-suite, and I think that's important for us to remember. All right, those are all of our news articles for today. No more news for today. I did want to get into some of our announcements. So here we go. All right, so we have coming up next week, On the 25th, we have our CPR renewal class. So this is a good time. Nursing students, if you need to get your CPR renewed before the next semester, now's the time to get it done. So we have our CPR renewal certification on Wednesday next week at 9 a.m. We also have our Jumpstart Nurse Business workshop that is at noon. So if you're looking to start your nurse business, now's the time for you to get into that Jumpstart program. You can register for that on the NurseSharkAcademy.biz. And then we also have our basic TB validation class will be on October the 25th at 3 o'clock. So if you need to get your TB certification in, now's a good time to do that as well. So there's a lot of things that we have coming up. And then looking forward to next month, we'll be having more trainings out there because we're getting ready for the holiday on the Baxter Professional Services Health Education side. We have our also our CNA training school. Applications are available for that. So if you're, those of you that are CNAs or wanting to be CNAs and it's getting close to your getting your income tax refund, prepare to start your new year and getting in training to become a CNA and start your healthcare career journey. So those are all of my announcements. I don't have any community announcements other than I do want to say thank you to those that stopped by our booth when we were at the Anderson-Madison County Black Chamber of Commerce Women's Conference. If you missed that conference, you missed a great time. We also had a great time for that Sunday at our annual banquet as well. And so I want to say thank you to those that joined us at our tables for that event. And then thank you to those of you that joined us for our Anderson Alignable breakfast this morning that we had at Perkins. And so be on the lookout for the things that we'll be doing coming up the rest of this year and in the new year. And don't forget to log in and check out our other show, the Nurse Shark Academy Show, where we interview nurse business owners and leaders. All right, that's it for me. Bye-bye for now. And thanks for showing up. You have a great rest of your day.